This is a Yahoo Finance Rockin Retail Special. Consumers are flush with cash thanks to a tight job market and trillions in stimulus dollars. The upcoming holiday shopping season will test what consumers are willing to spend their money on. There's growing anxiety over the cost of living and a possible recession on the horizon. The biggest retailers, even Amazon, are warning of tough times ahead. And it's all down to this: cost of living crisis with inflation through the roof. It's hitting mortgages, credit cards, cars, gas prices, and of course, grocery bills. The housing boom is now a bust in many parts of the country. Add in a bad year for stocks and the latest crypto crash, and it's no wonder consumer confidence is plunging. Retailers know all this, which is why they started holiday deals even earlier this year. Their number one goal, getting you to part with your money.
Loving that silky voice on the intro. Welcome to Yahoo Finance's Rockin Retail Special. I'm Brian Sozzi here in Oculus, New York City, otherwise known as Westfield World Trade Center. About 110 stores, maybe a little more than that, open in this location, 368,000 square feet of retail space. And guys, I've been walking around this for the past half hour, seeing a lot of tourists. Of course, it's a major tourist hub with the World Trade Center here. You have various subways that feed into this location. A lot of high-end shops like a John Varvatos. You have Boss, you have Stuart Weitzman. Not a lot, of course, I'm looking at an Apple store right now. Not a lot of shoppers in these stores just yet. Not seeing a lot of folks carrying bags, but of course, couple days away from Black Friday, and I would venture to say these stores will eventually get crowded as we near that big Black Friday holiday. But enough about me blabbing here. Let's welcome in our first guest, Alex Mill CEO, Mickey Drexler. I should also note, of course, the longtime legendary CEO of Gap and J. Crew. Mickey, always good to see you. Where are all the shoppers? They're not buying anything.
Well, they probably will. My guess is they're waiting for the prices to drop. I think Black Friday probably started a week or so ago. Everyone seems to be on sale with lots of price cuts, and been a tough go the last month or two.
I have to give you a shout out. I think it was 3 or 4 months ago. You were on Yahoo Finance Live and you said, Brian, I'm not seeing a lot of good things in retail. And nothing good really has come out of retail since you said that. Margins under pressure, retailers were too much inventory. How do you think this holiday season ultimately shakes out?
It's funny that you said that. I have a lot of people say, why are you so negative? I say, because it's negative out there. I think look, I don't know for sure. It has to be difficult because of the discounts, and Black Friday literally started a week ago with most people. I don't think it's easy to call. My hunch is it will be not a good one, but we'll see.
When will inventories get past their peak? I'm in a Target, I'm in a Walmart. Went yesterday to Roosevelt Field Mall. There's so much inventory in these stores.
They're in the
when
stores,
is it going to go away?
But there's more in the distribution centers. Mm-hmm. Some of the companies are okay. I think it'll go away when the prices get low enough to move the goods. But we all planned too ambitiously for this fall and holiday, and we own the goods. And if you don't make plan, which I don't think many people are, you'll just have the goods stack up.
Who ultimately wins in this environment?
In this environment? Well, last week, I think Walmart won. Trying to think of who else won.
I think that was the first. I've never heard you mention a Walmart.
Well, I don't usually, but I think it's interesting. That was a food win. Mm-hmm. And, they count it as retail, but I think half their business is food. A few others reported, and, a lot of the reporting says they beat estimates, but estimates seem to be very conservative. I don't know who else won, really. I don't
Macy's
recall.
Was a surprise.
A surprise, but again, you have to see the margins, and you have to see how they end up this quarter. November, from what I hear, and we had the same, very difficult. And now we're, I guess, entering, I think we're in the second week or third week, but what I hear anecdotally is that people are complaining about business.
Is Black Friday still a big thing?
I think it's been promoted to the nth degree. I think it's almost a cliche, and I don't think it's a big deal, personally. But we don't. I've never been involved in a Black Friday business, So it's a big deal, and TV makes it a bigger deal with lots of people lined up at the store.
You have to keep the lights on, Mickey.
Yeah,
You
right,
have to keep
right.
the lights on.
So
Talk to us about your former employer, Gap. Now, they don't have a permanent CEO in there. Why don't they just give you the gig?
well, I got into trouble when I saw you last time.
Yes, you did.
So there were a lot of my friends there. I ended up having to apologize to a number of them. So I really can't talk about
What's their
them.
place? What should they look like?
Well, they should look like Gap looks. I think it's a great opportunity to be the all-American uniform-ish with very fair prices and with good-looking clothes, lots of color. But, everyone needs to look good. And, I think they'll do much better.
Talk to us a little bit about Alex Mill. Why are you still in the game?
Well,
This is in your blood, I imagine.
Yeah, well, the game to me is a hobby and a sport. My son started it about 10 years ago, and I always liked the name, and I liked what I had felt there. I left J. Crew, and I was a little bored. I was on some boards and all that. And then I joined him, and I have Samsak, who was with me for 15 years at Madewell and J. Crew. He quit on the temporary CEO. And so I put them together, and I said, wow, I'm employed again. So I'm in work every day. Because, I don't know what else I do. I don't play golf. I don't sit on the couch much.
But you're a bit of a celebrity here. We were sitting over there in the corner. Somebody came over to you completely unprompted, said, hey, Mickey Drexler, you must be Mickey Drexler. I sent an email to you 20 years ago, and you replied. You acknowledged that something was wrong with the product. I don't see a lot of other merchants do that, but give some advice to these retail CEOs who may not be doing that.
Well, most big corporations, it's my personal private opinion, very bureaucratic. You have to touch the team. You have to touch the people. And, a lot of them are big shots. Mm-hmm. And I grew up in the Bronx, so I don't love big shots. But I felt like everyone else felt. Please say hello. I work here, and you're important. And I learned what not to do. And I grew up in the Bronx, and that's kind of a place where you respect people, you're ambitious, and you want to be recognized.
What is it like working with your son?
We've worked it out.
Okay.
It's difficult for him, and it was difficult for me, but we've worked things out over the last year. It was not easy.
Before I let you go, I have 30 seconds. Your big prediction this holiday season. Could be a retailer that does well, how things will shake out.
I think huge sales, and I think it's not going to be a very good one. I hope I'm really wrong.
Well, it is always great to get some time with you. Mickey Drexler, thanks for coming down here. I know you're a busy guy, and this is not an easy location per se to get to.
Yeah.
Always nice to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, we're going to get out to a UPS distribution center. Our very own Danny Romero visited that distribution center. We'll bring Danny in on the other side of the break. Welcome back to Yahoo Finance's Rockin Retail Special at the Oculus in New York City. Joining me now is our very own Danny Romero, who got to hang out in a distribution center for UBS in Manhattan ahead of the holidays. Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, so 'tis the season for holiday shopping, but guess what? It's also the season for holiday shipping. So I got an inside look at one of the UPS centers here in Manhattan on how they're tackling this holiday season. Take a look.
As customers click, companies like UPS ship.
It starts with the planning of the job prior to the actual unload, where the data that comes in from the shipping labels is sorted. The planners are then able to determine which vehicles will get which packages, and that sets up for the label application processes throughout the facility and allows for the package to flow through the facility in the right manner.
When you compare volume from last year to this year, what does that look like?
At this point, we're seeing a slight decrease, and we said that that may happen due to the fact that there's not an inventory shortage of goods in the market.
Leo Cummings is the New York operations manager at this UPS center on West 43rd Street in Manhattan.
Well, I can tell you that all the packages that come through this facility, 90% of the packages in our network go through some automated facilities.
Here's how automation works at this location. Packages pass through machines like this that scans each parcel and spits out another label, giving workers a clear indication to where that package is going.
Well, automation here allows us to de-skill certain handling opportunities for us. It allows us to make sure we're aware of where packages need to go in their final destination. It's a great tool for the entire building to use so we can identify where packages truly belong and get to the customer. Ultimately, we want to get to the point where the package is going to the right vehicle so they can get to the right customer.
Cummings says this has not reduced their number of workers inside the facility.
Automation allows you to take out the variables.
This facility processes more than 200,000 packages a day during this holiday season. At this site, they've already started to ramp up.
From the plan aspect, are we able to handle extra volume? Are we able to adjust when we have less volume? So we're ready for peak season.
Cummings says they will continue to hire more people.
There's a great opportunity for people. Last year alone, over 35,000 seasonal employees became permanent employees at UPS.
And those positions that you just heard, they range from $15 to $36 an hour. But Sozzi, there's also something else on the table for UPS, and that is one of the largest rail unions rejected a tentative deal. So that really, UPS is one of the largest rail customers. They sent us a statement that reads, we encourage an immediate resolution that is beneficial to all parties, and we believe that agreements can be reached. A rail strike would cause unnecessary impacts for the U.S. economy and consumers, and UPS will flex our integrated smart logistics network to serve our customers. So the stakes are really high here, Brian.
All right, Danny Romero, good reporting there. Let's stay on all things supply chain here. Let's bring in John Gold, the National Retail Federation's Vice President for Supply Chains and Customs. And John, you just heard Danny mention the potential railroad strike. How debilitating would this be for the retail shopping season? But look, even the economy more broadly.
Look, I think a rail strike would cause $2 billion in damage a day for the U.S. economy. That's what the American Association of Railroads has projected. It's significant. I mean, everybody relies on the rails to get their goods to market. Imports, exports, agriculture, manufacturers waiting on inputs to production. Also, sensitive materials, things like chlorine, which need to get into healthy drinking water. So this is significant if a rail strike were to occur on December 9th.
Yeah, and speaking on labor, automation has been tossed around a lot in the conversation. Is that the future of supply chain? Seeing on the port side, also anything revolving around supply chain?
I think technology and automation certainly are critical to the future of the supply chain. If we truly want to have a 21st century global supply chain, we've got to bring technology and automation into it. We've got to bring the workers into it as well. They've got to be part of the discussion as we're talking about the future and technology and automation. They've got to be part of that conversation. But it is going to be significant, and we've got to move forwards on getting that as a part of the supply chain. We've got to have better visibility and better connectivity for all the partners to understand what's happening at any stage in the supply chain.
For those that don't have your expertise, John, would a railroad strike, does that mean the truckers, logistics companies, how can they pick up the slack? Would they just be overrun with demand and orders?
So if a rail strike were to happen, that means the entire freight rail system would shut down. That means products moving from the ports, moving in the country, exports moving out. There is some capacity to pick up in truck, but you're not going to be able to pick up all the cargo that moves on rail that goes onto truck. So we're going to have capacity issues.
Well, it sounds like major delays of
Definitely
products.
Major delays if it were to happen. Obviously, a short term would be better, but we hope there's no disruption whatsoever.
Yeah, and speaking of trucking, California has this ambitious plan to make their trucking fleets, change from diesel to electric. How feasible is that really for our current environment, our supply chain?
I think as the truckers have said in California, it's a challenge. You don't have the infrastructure in place to be able to do the charging for the trucks that are needed, especially at our ports. We've got clean truck programs that are going to effect at the ports of LA and Long Beach, but we don't have the number of trucks we need. We don't have the infrastructure. So I think many shippers want to work with California legislature and let's get to a greener economy, but let's do it in the right way where we don't force people out of business to make it happen.
Inflation in the supply chain, based on what you're seeing and based on what you're hearing from your contacts, what is the inflationary outlook look like over the next 6 months?
I think inflation continues to be a concern. Obviously, consumers continue to be concerned about that. But look, we're going to have a positive holiday season. From what we've seen thus far, the research we've done, we're looking at 6 to 8% growth in the holiday season this year. So looking at $942 to $960 billion in spending by consumers. So I think there's a lot of unknowns as to what happens going into next year. But I think retailers are trying to plan their best to be ready for that continuing consumer demand that we've seen for the past 30 months.
And speaking of that, things have really shifted on the West Coast. They've gone from choke to fluid now, but there's also a dilemma, and that is on the warehousing capacity. What is the solution there? I mean, I've heard that warehouses are now expanding their outdoor space, but how much of that is really a temporary solution?
Yeah, I think a lot of the challenges we faced on the West Coast was everybody bringing product in earlier in the season, but also we've got the ongoing labor negotiations on the West Coast. That's why you saw such a shift this summer to the East Coast, and we've got East Coast and Gulf Coast ports are full. I think warehousing certainly is a challenge as you've had full warehouses, but I think as retailers right-size their inventory, they're going to be better able to process that inventory moving forwards. But making sure we're able to open up new warehouses, have better fulfillment centers that are in place, have regulations that help incentivize opening warehouses, move warehouses to other locations, have inland locations where you can then shift cargo to there. So I think there are some options there, but we've all got to work together to make it happen.
Is the labor shortage in the trucking industry still as severe as it was a year ago?
From what we hear, there still is a significant driver shortage that we continue to face, both on the drayage side as well as the long haul side. So I think labor throughout the supply chain continues to be a challenge.
Yeah, and I wanted to shift gears a little bit on the U.S.-China trade dispute saga. Do you believe that tariffs are inflationary, and is it really worth it given our inflationary environment right now?
We've said from the outset that tariffs were not the right strategy to deal with the China trade issues we've been dealing with. Putting tariffs on products for everyday consumers doesn't make sense, and it has not worked. We haven't seen China make the changes they were supposed to because of the tariffs. So we think there are better opportunities to engage China on some of these trade practices that not only impact the U.S., but impact our trading partners as well.
How do you engage them?
I think through ongoing dialogue. I think, look, having President Biden and President Xi actually have a conversation, once again, get that dialogue going, but then let's figure out a better path forward, because the tariffs have been applied on the China imports impact U.S. consumers, impact U.S. manufacturers. It only raises the cost of these goods for the ultimate consumer.
Do you see any change happening, though?
Not right now, but we want to continue to see change, hopefully. Now with USTR having their 4-year review of the tariffs, hopefully now they're already having an opportunity to talk about the negative impact the tariffs have had over the past 4+ years. And then again, opening the door to have those conversations with the Chinese, which we haven't had in almost 2 years.
I'm asking every guest that we have on here their big prediction for this holiday season. Are empty shelves over? What is your big prediction?
I think, look, our big prediction, we put our forecast out a couple weeks ago. We're looking at 6 to 8% growth over last year's holiday sales, roughly $942 to $960 billion in consumer spending this year.
That's not recessionary.
That's not recessionary. And I think, look, consumers have continued to spend throughout the pandemic and then some. We've seen 30+ months of month-on-month growth in the retail sector. Consumers want to go out and continue to spend and celebrate the holidays where they haven't been able to do in the past. So again, we're looking for another positive holiday season. We're looking at 166 million consumers ready to engage in this 5-day holiday weekend we're going to have coming up, either in-store or online. So consumers ready to get out there and shop.
I'm ready to engage, my man. I'm going to go out there and buy myself something. I don't know what it is, but you know what? I'm going to find it. John Gold, National Retail Federation Vice President for Supply Chain and Customs. Good to see you. And Danny Romero,
Thank you
really
very
good
much.
reporting on UPS. Good to see you. Appreciate it. All right, straight ahead, we're going to look at some worst and best retail performers. Jared Blickery is at the Wi-Fi Interactive, that big board back at HQ. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Yahoo Finance's Rockin Retail Special. I'm Brian Sozzi here, still in Oculus, New York City, at the World Trade Center. But I want to get back to Yahoo Finance HQ, and that is where we find our very own Jared Blickery, who is rocking that Wi-Fi Interactive, looking at some of the best and worst retail performers so far this year. Jared.
Yeah, let me tell you, Brian, let's break this down by sector first. And this is a year-to-date look at the 11 S&P 500 sectors. What stands out is energy is the only one in the green. Following that, we have consumer staples, and that is a part of retail. That's only down about 2.2%. To the downside, consumer discretionary, that is down 32%. So kind of a bifurcation in terms of what people need, that's staples, versus what they might not need. That's discretionary. And here is a similar look over the last month. Only consumer discretionary and communication services are in the red. And I'll tell you what, you peer into the retail sector itself, and guess what? All of this, not all of it, but most of it is due to Amazon, because we can see over the last month, many of these stocks, if not most, almost all of them, largely in the green here. Home Depot up 15%, Walmart up 11%. And if you're screening for some winners to buy, hoping on that Santa Claus rally into the end of the year, and technically it's really only the last 5 days a year plus 2 days of the following year. But nevertheless, if you're looking for some of those guys, want to show you who is the least worst off from their highs. Now, if we sort by here, we can see at the very top, a lot of these consumer staples and also some of those discounting stocks. We got Dollar General that is only off 1.5% from its record or 52-week high, TJX down 2%, Ulta Beauty down 2.7%. In fact, if you take a look at this top line here, also going into Ross Stores, Walmart, Dollar Tree, BJ's, Costco, those are all staples and basically selling things that people need. To the downside is where we find a lot of those electronic retailers. Look at this, down 89%, Wayfair. Also seeing that in Shopify, down about 80%. And then Amazon, we already took a look at that. That's down 50% from its 52-week high, Brian.
Hey, Jerry, you know what a good time for me is? Buying plastic forks at Dollar General, sharing everything with our audience. I never hide anything. But besides that, Jared, I know you're also crunching some data on how stocks trade during a holiday shortened trading week.
Yes, fortunately, Almanac Trader is doing the heavy lifting for us. This is November, and this is what the major averages, and he breaks them out individually. So we got 4 here due over the month of November. What's notable is that we kind of go about sideways to maybe a little bit down into the middle of the month, and then just around last Friday would be around the turning point, tend to see that rise into the end of the month. And his bottom line here is the best short-term trade appears to be getting along into any weakness in the week or days before the holiday. So presumably that would be today. Today's a down day. And selling any subsequent rally toward the end of Thanksgiving week or before the end of the month. Let me just show you what the S&P 500 has been doing. This is over the last 3 months. We can see after hitting that low, that recent low, in fact, that's the low of the year in October, it has been a steady climb up, but kind of flagging, just a little bit of sideways action here. So maybe that Thanksgiving rally going to take effect. We'll have to see, Brian.
All right, Jared, send me a turkey leg back there at Yahoo Finance HQ. Jared Blickery, thanks so much. All right, let's stay on all things retail and economy. Let's bring in a friend of the show, Mastercard Chief U.S. Economist, Michelle Meyer. Michelle, actually, it's the first time I'm seeing you in person after 10 years of knowing you.
I think that's right.
All right, so take us through some of your holiday numbers. I'm an avid consumer of the Mastercard Spending Pulse data. How do you think this holiday season will shake out?
Well, it's interesting. We're forecasting just over 7% growth this holiday season for retail sales ex autos, and we're really keenly focused on what happens this Black Friday period. We're looking for just Black Friday alone to be up 15% year over year. And I think what we learned so far from this season and looking at our high frequency data is that the consumer is focused on promotions. They're looking for those moments in time where they feel like it's the appropriate point to purchase, to go in full ahead and buy those holiday gifts. So you see a bit of fits and starts thus far, and I wonder if that's going to continue into the rest of the holiday season.
Michelle, that's a huge number, 15%. I thought we were nearing a recession.
You know, part of the reason it is a big number is because last year, Black Friday wasn't really characteristic of Black Friday, similarly as the year before, because you didn't have as much in-store purchasing. You didn't have the typical, doorbuster sales that you had in prior years. Last year and the year before that, it was a lot more spread out. It was much more concentrated online, and retailers also accommodated that or looked for that. This year, I think you're anticipating, and we'll see, but it seems like we're going to see a lot more of the in-person sales where people rush out to get those promotions and make sure they check everything off their list.
One thing that has surprised me, just talking to a lot of retail executives as they have been reporting earnings the past 2 weeks, they're telling us that consumers making over $100,000 a year, those higher income households, they're trading down.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that in some time. Are you hearing that?
Yeah, I think that is, something we have to keep an eye out for, and I think we are seeing to a certain extent. And it makes sense given the macro backdrop, as you noted before. The economy has been faced with high inflation. A lot of categories have seen, extremely high price shocks. We are seeing an environment of higher interest rates. The Federal Reserve is actively hiking rates and anticipates will continue to hike interest rates. So the consumer is trying to navigate this environment. So a certain amount of trading down when their budget is becoming more constrained makes a lot of sense. Also, consider where we're coming off of. Last year and the year before was really, really, really strong when it comes to overall consumer spending, where consumers had a lot of discretionary income to put to work.
I'm really testing your knowledge here, but how concerned are you about the savings rate really coming down? The way I look at the decline in the savings rate this year is people have tapped their savings to go out there and buy food and household essential. How concerning is that for the economy as you look towards next year?
So it's going to get a little wonky, but there's the rate
Love
of...
it. Fire away. That's what we're here for.
There's the rate of savings, and then there's the level of savings. So the rate of savings has certainly come down, and it will remain a lot lower because, in part, people have a stock of money still out there, this pandemic savings. By our calculations, about a quarter to maybe a third of that cumulative pandemic savings has been used. So there's still some capacity out there to put that money to work, but it does mean that the rate of savings, that savings rate, is going to remain historically low for some time.
As we look towards next year, we have a slowing housing market.
Yeah.
We have a stock market that has just caused a lot of wealth destruction. How do consumers adjust to that? How do you see that playing out?
So I think what you're speaking of is the idea of a negative wealth shock.
Negative wealth effect.
That, consumers are now seeing their finances shift, particularly those higher income consumers that are more levered to the stock market or maybe homeowners. But I also think it's important to think about the starting point, right? That the wealth effect doesn't happen overnight. It is a response to the cumulative change in wealth that happens over several years. So a bit of what we've seen throughout this year has been a payback from extraordinary appreciation in the stock market. Even in the housing market as well, home price appreciation nationally on a year-over-year basis ran above the peak rate in the early 2000s. So we're now seeing the normalization of that market. And it's happening quickly, and it's causing some ripples and some shocks, and people have to adjust to that. But it makes sense that we're seeing these adjustments given how excessive some of these gains were over the last few years.
Based on what you're seeing there and just inflation is still high. I know we had a positive reaction in markets to that CPI index rolling over a little bit a couple weeks ago, but do you see a recession at all next year?
So first on the inflation point, I think the October inflation report was really important as the markets react. And the reason that it was so important is if you dig into the details, what we're starting to see is core goods inflation come down. Some of the categories that had the biggest price increases are now starting to see some declines. That's critical. And that matters for how you think about the possibility of a soft landing, because to the extent that inflation can come off the highs, that supply chain issues start to be resolved, as you just spoke about, that the demand story starts to shift, then you get a more natural mitigation of inflation pressure, which means that maybe the Fed doesn't have to be as aggressive at slowing down the economy in order to achieve their goals. That's not to say the Fed is done. Clearly, the Fed still has more to go in terms of interest rate hikes, but it's really the path forward for inflation and the success in terms of getting to price stability that will dictate whether or not we'll end up seeing that downturn or not.
When does the economy feel the effect of these Fed rate hikes? I guess the old rule of thumb was 6 months down.
Yeah.
What does that effect even look like?
Those long and variable lags in monetary policy.
Please. My CFA textbook. Oh, no. Oh, God, I can't
Bring it out of you.
No.
So, Chair Powell actually talked about that in the last press conference, that they are quite aware of the lags. They're studying them. They don't know exactly what those lags look like. And it's possible that the lags are a lot shorter now because of so much forward guidance that goes into monetary policy. The market moves in advance of the actual changes in monetary policy. So if those lags are indeed shorter, then from the Fed, they can react maybe a bit more to real-time movements in the economy. But it's a risk, and they have to be aware of that, because what they don't want to do is tighten too much, realize, oops, we overdid it. The economy is going to be too weak, and then they have to pull that back. So they're going to tread very carefully, I think, from here on.
Last 30 seconds, your big prediction for this holiday season.
I think experiences are still going to be key, still be a priority in terms of gifting and experiences, spending on experiences, travel, restaurants, recreation, theater. People still want to go out and live and enjoy themselves, and they have to buy good clothes to do that.
Yes, they do. Well, it's good to see you in person.
You
Mastercard
too.
Chief U.S. Economist Michelle Meyer. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Thanks
You
for doing
as
this.
well.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right, still to come, our very own tech editor, Dan Halley. He's been here for about 2 hours sitting on the floor over there working on his top tech deals. He will be on with us next. Welcome back to Yahoo Finance's Rockin Retail Special here at Oculus in New York City. The energy, well, it's popping. We're looking at a lot of shops. People are not exactly in them buying things, but Black Friday, of course, is right around the corner, and that means everybody, mostly everybody, will be looking for awesome tech gifts. And here's our very own tech editor, Dan Halley, looking for the hottest tech items.
Yeah. So every holiday season comes around, everybody wants to get their hands on some kind of tech for the people in their lives or just for themselves. That's kind of what I like to do. So I do have a good list
Hit us.
of some of the biggest items. I think despite coming out 2 years ago, one of the biggest ones is still Sony's PlayStation 5. It's been a bear for people to get them. You had the COVID shutdowns, you had the chip shortages, you had huge amount of demand, not enough product. It's still out there as one of the gifts that people really want. I was trying to get one the other day for my buddy. I'm not paying for it, he's going to pay me back, but it's still sold out. After that, we have the rival, Xbox. It might not be as popular as the PlayStation, but Microsoft has some amazing services. They have Game Pass, which lets you get up to 300 games that you can just play on your Xbox without having to buy them, part of a subscription. And you have cloud gaming, so if you're on the go and on your phone, you can play those PC games or Xbox games on your device. There's a number that are outside of the gaming space, though. One of the more obscure ones, though, I want to hit real quick is the Valve Steam Deck. This is, think of a Nintendo Switch.
Don't even know what that is.
Yeah,
You're not supposed to say that, but I've never heard of it, but Dan.
I
I've never
love
heard of it.
The Steam Deck. Oh, it's awesome.
know what it
It's
is.
basically a Nintendo Switch that lets you play PC games.
Okay.
It's $3.99, a little on the pricier side. It's a little chunky too, but it's really, really cool if you're a big PC gamer. Outside of gaming, though, there's the kind of the murderer's row, right? We have the iPhone 14 Pro. I might have one in my hand right now.
Very, very important too. We're supposed to get Best Buy earnings this week too as well. That is supposed to be a key driver. I would really be listening to that Best Buy earnings call to see the adoption on that new iPhone. That is a great holiday season tell.
And it's the bigger one, the Pro. So that's the one that's going to drive ASP for Apple, and also the one that's kind of hard to get now because of those COVID shutdowns. So if you are shopping for one for somebody for the holidays, make sure that you go sooner rather than later, because you might not be able to get it later on in the holiday season. Apple also has the Apple Watch. There's the SE and the Series 8. Don't go for the Ultra. It's $800, and unless you're climbing Everest,
It's nothing
or
for a
something.
man of your stature.
I mean, no. That's look. $1 million or bust. That's what I like to spend. Give me a couple of rollies. So I would say for most people, go with the SE. That one's going to run you a little bit less than the Series 8. We're talking about around $249. The Series 8 is $399. I have the Series 8 on because I'm bougie, and that's what I like to go for. There's also the AirPods Pro. They got the new AirPods, the second generation AirPods Pro. Great noise cancellation, great transparency mode, kind of increases the ambient noise around you. So if you go for a run at night and you're, kind of creeped out, you can hear what's going on around you more. And then outside of Apple, we have Google, actually.
Do you care about Google this year?
I
Google
do.
product. We care about Google
I'm
products.
throwing out the Pixel 7. Great smartphone, relatively inexpensive. Google throws all that Google AI magic in there, improves the camera capabilities. You have photo editing, you have True Tone, so it's a great smartphone. It's also just straight up Android, so there's not a whole bunch of other stuff thrown on top of it. And then, believe it or not, they also have a great smartwatch too called the Pixel Watch. That thing is beautiful. It's the first Android smartwatch that I
Did they get
looked
the
at.
battery right yet? I have a Google OS operating watch for golf. I have a golf watch. The battery dies. It doesn't even make it around, Dan.
It's going to go, I'll give you about a day, maybe a day and a half.
It's horrible.
If you turn the always on display off, the Apple Watch will last you a little bit longer with the always on display on. And then outside of those gifts, there's an Echo Dot, right? There's the new Echo Dot, Amazon, Alexa. It's got the clock built in. It's not bad.
Outside of all these items, and just because you're on staff, you're still getting this question, your biggest prediction from the tech space this holiday season?
This holiday season, it's hard. I think we were talking about the iPhone. We're talking about how it's going to be difficult for people to get their hands on it. Apple really needs the iPhone to do well this holiday season. The holiday season is when so many people go out and buy their devices. I think it might be a little bit of a disappointment just because, we're talking about these lockdowns. They lasted longer in that factory that really produces the Pro and the Pro Max. That's where they get the bulk of their iPhone money. That's also the one that people want the most. It has that new dynamic island. It has the better camera. It has the better display. So I think it might be a little disappointing there. I also want to throw out gaming might do a little bit better than we're expecting, but it could still, it's not going to push the year over year to new limits or anything.
Well, we've seen a pullback in mobile gaming.
We have. That's all advertising. And that's part of the reason why gaming suffered so far this year. They're not getting the mobile ads. And, you look at an Activision Blizzard, their mobile side, all about ads. I mean, anybody that's in the gaming space and in the advertising space is, dealing with that kind of pullback. But, if you can still get a PlayStation 5, I'm rooting for
Well,
you.
I'll let you do your thing. Across the way is that big, bright Apple store. Seeing some shoppers in there. Dan Halley, tech editor for Yahoo Finance. Always good to see you, my man. Appreciate it.
You too.
All right, we're talking all things retail, of course, in our Rockin Retail Special. Oculus, New York City. Not really seeing a lot of shoppers per se, but a lot of tourists out here at this location. Very much looking forward to talking to our next guest. That is Retail Analyst Hitha Herzog. Talk a little bit about luxury shopping, you name it, et cetera. We'll be right back.
The price of things have gone up. My salary hasn't gone up. It's still the same, so it has really affected a lot of my decision making.
It's a little bit difficult, but if you save, you can make it work. Inflation is affecting everybody.
I will be spending more time shopping online. Absolutely. I'm trying to spend less.
I plan on spending smarter, so hopefully that's less.
All right, a little short break here. Yahoo Finance's Rockin Retail Special. Still Oculus in New York City, still planted in the seat, still watching shoppers maybe buy some high-end luxury goods. And speaking of luxury, we have our friend of the show, Retail Analyst Hitha Herzog. Hitha, it's been forever. Good to see you.
It really has been forever.
So,
but we have a long history.
Yes, we do. Yes. Talking retail. I know luxury. You love talking about luxury shopping. How do you think that luxury shopper will come out this holiday season?
It's interesting, Brian. We really saw a V-shaped recovery with the luxury sector post-pandemic, I should say. But now I think what's happening just in terms of, the high-end shopper is definitely going to buy luxury, but when you come to that middle-range shopper, that aspirational shopper, they're the ones that are going to feel the crunch because of all of these headwinds we are seeing, because of the inflation issues we are seeing, and also with supply chain.
What are they buying? What is a high-end shopper shopping for?
Oh, Hermes handbags for sure. If you some of the statistics that were coming out of Hermes, I think they had increased prices by almost 4 to 5%, and revenues had increased 20 to 30%. And they plan on increasing the prices of the bags. So right now you have these bags going for at the minimum $10,000. So those high-end shoppers are going to be buying those handbags.
You know what is? It's interesting. We were just talking to Michelle Meyer, Mastercard's U.S. Chief Economist. That pullback in high-end consumers, I have not heard that since probably the Great Recession.
Right. I think it was right around the time when we knew each other, met each other.
We still know each other.
Well, we know each other, of course. But
right.
when we started doing this together, started out in our respective careers, the Great Recession happened, and we saw that pullback from the high-end shopper. And I remember people were even hiding their bags of where they were shopping. I don't think we're going to see that.
You took my next question. That's exactly what I was going. Luxury got shunned. I mean, if the economy is slowing down again, do you think we're going back there where we're no longer buying Coach sea bags anymore?
Well, this is what's going on. A study by Oracle said that 88% of people just want new experiences. 45% of those people haven't really felt happiness in 2 years. So what you're going to see those 45% of people doing is going into stores to try to get that happiness back, that regain that happiness.
No happiness? It's terrible.
For 2 years, they have not felt happiness. So they're going to go into stores. They're going to want to go into the Kiehl store and get their skin checked. They're going to want to go into all these other stores and just experience life. If you think about it, the American consumer, this is a great professional pastime. People like to go shopping. So it's all about those retailers bringing in the experience so that people can experience that.
Well, I'll speak for you for a second. I imagine you've been happy over the past 2 years. I know I definitely have been happy, but let's go from luxury to specialty apparel. We just had former Gap CEO Mickey Drexler. Wow, what an icon of retail, talking about Gap a little bit. But what's the future for a company like that? Hitha, I just don't see it. I don't see it.
I think what's going on with these companies, especially those middle-range companies, they need to understand that it's all about inventory control and making sure that they have a good pacing of what's coming out in the store. So have a real understanding of what's going on with their consumer base and understand how that consumer is shopping. Are they coming into stores? Do they really want to see Kanye West collection in massive bags on the floor? I don't think so. But that just goes to show you that they don't know what the consumer base is yet. Will they get back to it? I'm sure. But it's all about returning to who their shopper is and how they shop.
You've been covering retail for a while. Is it surprising that Gap couldn't figure out a way to make money off of Kanye West?
It is a little surprising, but from what I understand, there were a lot of cooks in the kitchen and a lot of people weighing in on what was going on with that collaboration. As we saw Mr. Yi, I don't know what he goes by now, but he was saying that to my point, there were a lot of cooks in the kitchen and no one really can make a decision. So, when you have that situation, I can only imagine how difficult that must be.
A little bit more of a positive story, and one that has surprised me, is Macy's. I was on that Macy's earnings call last week. Hitha, I was shocked. Bloomingdale's doing pretty well. They were selling discretionary items. A completely different story than what we heard from Kohl's. Macy's has turned into like a comeback story here.
I think what ended up happening with Macy's is they finally got a clue that they needed to bring younger people to the table. And one collaboration that they are doing, which I love, is that for their VIP customers, they are incorporating cameos from the Santa to talk to the kids of the VIP customers. So these kids are going to be getting actual videos from Santa, which is absolutely genius. This is how people shop now. People want that experience. And to your point, that's what gives true happiness. And in terms of Bloomingdale's, I have a friend that's a former executive of beauty and fashion there. And the way that it is merchandising and what she's told me, it's quite astounding. I mean, the way that everything is laid out and how it just draws in that shopper. Brian, it's all about what that shopper is going to experience this holiday season. And if those retailers can really hit the nail on the head with that, well, they haven't figured it out by today. There's an issue.
I just had a moment of unhappiness because I remember thinking back to my mom would take me to Sears to go visit Santa, and now they're getting cameos.
Now they're getting, welcome to 2022, Brian.
Exactly, I know, I'm a couple of years behind. Last thing before I let you go, I'm asking everybody their retail predictions for this holiday season. Hit us with one.
I think the consumer's still going to shop. I think what we're going to see is a real issue come February, March when those credit card bills start coming in. But I think, as I said, people want to feel true happiness. They're going to go out there and they're probably going to buy on a lot of debt. And then the reality is going to hit them in the face come February, March.
All right, we'll say this too. We didn't plan these colors, even though we've known each other for a long time. Hitha Herzog, retail analyst. Always good to see you. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays.
All right, we will be right back from Oculus, our Rockin Retail Special. Well, it rolls right along. Welcome back to Yahoo Finance's Rockin Retail Special from Oculus in New York City. And who doesn't love some good face cream? I use it every single day because, look at this face. I'm really 20 years old, all because of the face cream. So let's stay on this in personal care products. With Kiehl's is David Cohen, New York City District Manager. Good to see you here.
Thanks for having me.
I imagine this is a big week for you and the team.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it is now go time. We've spent months preparing for this. It's a really exciting week for us, and we're really looking forward to some great things.
How do you prepare for a Black Friday week like this?
So, the win is all in the preparation, right? So it's making sure that we have the right people who are trained. We have a very extensive training program that's really focused on ingredients. So our skin pros, which is who we call our team, our skin pros are ready to serve our customers and give expert advice.
What are consumers coming into Kiehl's for nowadays?
It varies, right? So a lot of people are coming in for their favorites that they've used for years and years. I mean, Kiehl's has been around since 1851. We started here in New York City in the East Village, right on the corner of 13th and 3rd. So we have a large heritage customer who comes in looking for their old favorites, the Ultra Facial Moisturizer, the Ultra Facial Creams, and then also we have some newer clients who are looking for something that lifts, tones, firms, and we have a little something for everybody. Kiehl's.
Are you trying to send me a message, David?
I'm trying to sell you something.
Oh, you're trying to sell me something. Okay,
Yes.
I think I'm still looking pretty young, but maybe I'm not. So who is the customer demographic? Is it, the 40-year-old male now starting to navigate into your stores a little bit?
It really varies. I mean, Kiehl's is about skincare for all, plain and simple, and we see everybody. We see, older folks, younger folks, folks of different genders, really looking for great skincare advice from our skincare pros, and we're happy to take care of that.
How has the selling process changed? You mentioned there's a lot of training that is going on right now.
Yeah.
Customer traffic to all stores, it's sparse because everybody's shopping online. How have you had to retrain the workforce?
We really focus on delighting our customers, plain and simple, and really making the most of every interaction. And really what separates us is our skin pro. Is that person who's giving amazing advice and creating a one-to-one experience where, they want to come back, right? And they want to shop with us.
Are the products, how is inflation impacting the business? Have you had to take up prices at all?
Since I've been with Kiehl's, I've not seen a price increase.
All right, so you are a friend to the consumer. So take us through some of these products.
Yeah.
What do you have there? What do you got?
Amazing. So first, this is our Ultra Facial Barrier Cream, which we just launched. It actually launches on December 1st, and it's available actually right now in stores.
So what is this supposed to do?
It is immediately supposed to soothe and repair your skin. So it starts off like a balm, so you'll feel it kind of thick instantly. And then it goes down into a nice cream. So it's for your face, it's for your hands, or for your knees.
Is this anti-aging?
So the properties of it are about soothing and repairing, so it doesn't really have a lot of anti-aging properties in it. However, because it hydrates the skin and provides a nice skin barrier.
It's tingling a little bit.
And it's nice and warm, right?
I like it.
So because it prevents moisture from leaving, it also helps to keep you young looking, yeah.
What do you think some of the top sellers would be? Do you sell like baskets? Is that still a thing in personal care?
Oh, we don't actually sell baskets per se. We have a lot of great gift sets that deal with or that speak to hydration, that speak to, gift giving for teachers and your neighbors, and all varying price points that are really focused on ingredients that are efficacious and also really do something, right? So whether there's an anti-aging set or there's a hydration set, there's a little something for everybody.
I just wiped off 10 years by putting that on my forehead.
I agree. Congratulations.
I appreciate you.
Looking good.
I appreciate you. So before we let you go, what is your Black Friday like? You're closed on Thanksgiving, right?
We are closed on Thanksgiving.
So you open up again on Black Friday. Take
Yep.
us through that day. How crazy is it? Considering we are in this world where people are buying stuff online.
Yeah. So, while I can't predict what's going to happen on Black Friday, I wish I had a crystal ball that I could do that. What I do know is that we are really excited about our trends right now that we're seeing since last weekend, and looking forward to that, continuing through Black Friday. And what we're focused on right now is just making sure that our teams are ready, that they're trained, that we have the right amount of product. Because when our customers come into our stores, what they're looking for is an amazing experience, right? And our skin pros are able to deliver that.
Well, thanks for taking some time. I know this is a very, very busy week.
Yeah.
David Cohen, Kiehl's New York City District Manager. Good luck. Get some sleep.
Thank you.
Appreciate the product.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, that's it for me at the Oculus New York City Yahoo Finance's Rockin Retail Special. Again, the crowds are sparse here. This is a major tourist hub here in New York City. I imagine as Black Friday nears, those shops will in fact be full. That's it for me.